Thank you all for being here in your lunch hour. I'm going to be talking about how to switch your internal platform to multiplayer mode. So the idea for this talk came from talking to lots of different companies and organizations who are trying to increase the value and effectiveness of their internal platform, but they're trying to avoid having to massively scale up that team. So I'm going to be sharing some ideas about how my team thinks about solving this challenge. A quick introduction. So my name's Paula Kennedy. I'm co-founder of a company called Syntasso. We make Kratix, which is an open source framework for building internal platforms. In my spare time, I organize a bunch of community conferences, and I'm also a newly announced CNCF ambassador, which is very exciting. And I do a few other things as well. But anyway, let's get on with the talk. So, a quick history lesson before we get into the details. Once upon a time, there were devs and there were ops, and they were siloed. They had frustrations, developers had frustrations where they couldn't get access to the tools and things that they needed quickly enough, and ops were frustrated that they were having to kind of run code or support code that they hadn't written, so there was challenges on both sides. Back in around about 2009, 2010, we introduced DevOps. So the idea was to reduce these silos and allow devs and ops to work together in the same team and empower those teams to be able to build and run everything themselves, which sounds great. It worked well, but then as companies scaled, we saw multiple teams existing and following these practices, and that then led to duplication and waste. So you've got the same teams trying to solve the same problems over and over again. And in addition, we saw the amount of work that those teams had to do kept increasing. So they were having to deal with more and more tools, more services, manage more things from infrastructure, networking, CI/CD, observability. Everything just kept getting more and more complicated, with the impact being that those teams had increased cognitive load, more things to worry about. And aside from the complexity of those things, DevOps teams were also having to deal with other kind of internal concerns, internal processes, like security and compliance. And sorry if there's any folks in the room that are security and compliance. I didn't mean to call you out as being ghosts and creepers. It was just for illustration purposes. So, to solve these DevOps challenges, we've seen the emergence of platform engineering. Right? Platform engineering, one of its goals is to provide a better developer experience by reducing cognitive load on the developers, enabling them to focus on their core goal of delivering value to customers. And the way platform teams do this is by providing an internal platform that's customized for their developers' needs and offers that tooling and services on demand so that developers can self-serve and then build and run their own applications. But a common pattern that's resulted from this shift is that the platform teams themselves are being asked to provide an increasing set of tools and services for developers to use. So the cognitive load that I described, it hasn't gone away. It's just shifted from developer kind of application teams onto platform teams. And there's also a lot of pressure on those platform teams to provide a lovely developer experience. We hear about DevX a lot, and the pressure is on that platform team to provide that developer experience internally to their app developers. Which all leads me back to the question, how can an organization get more value from that platform and that platform team, but without having to increase that team like with hundreds and hundreds of people? So one way I think about answering this question is I tend to go to the Team Topologies book. How many folks have read this book? Oh, amazing. Nearly everybody. Okay, great. So Team Topologies, written 2019 by Matthew Skelton, Manuel Pace. In the book, they refer to 4 team types. So stream-aligned teams, or application teams, enabling teams, complicated subsystem teams, and platform teams. Now, I've described already the problem where we have too much load on the stream-aligned teams, or the application teams, if they have to do everything themselves. And we've seen the rise of the problem where platform teams have too much load on them, and they're being asked to do too much. So how can we look to share that load and share that kind of workload with other teams in the organization? How can we make it possible so that internal platform building is more evenly distributed across an organization? So this is where the value of a multiplayer approach can come in. So I've got two specific examples where I'm going to look at how other teams could inject their specialist skills, so their subject matter expertise, into the platform so that the whole organization can benefit, but without having to transfer cognitive load onto the platform team or to the Streamline team. So, firstly, let's take an example where an application team or Streamline team wants access to a database. So I've chosen Postgres as an example. Now, in an ideal world, those app teams would have kind of self-service access to Postgres. They can provision one when they need it. But within your organization, you might have a specialist database team that is in charge of kind of configuring Postgres. They know how it needs to be set up, how it needs to be consumed, how it fits in your organization's kind of internal systems. Instead of trying to pass all of that specialist knowledge either onto the application team in a kind of a DevOps world or onto the platform team, it would be much better if the team could contribute Postgres into their platform. So making it easy for the application teams to consume it and the platform teams to kind of wrap it up into the platform, but neither app team or platform team have to know all the ins and outs of Postgres. They have to have just enough to make it available so that app teams can consume it, but your database team still has all of the specialist knowledge. Let's try thinking about, instead of an actual specialist tool, think about a specific requirement such as security. Now, in your organization, you're likely to have specific security requirements, but you probably don't have enough subject matter experts of security to embed one into each team, into each app team, into each platform team. You probably just don't have enough people. So thinking about a multiplayer approach, what we should be aiming for is to allow the security specialists to provide security in such a way that it's embedded in the platform so that app teams get to not worry about it. Platform team also doesn't need to worry about it. They just make it possible for the security team to embed security practices, and then your specialists have provided what you need, app teams can consume, platform team provides, but you aren't trying to give everybody all the knowledge of every single thing. Overall, you should be able to reduce the cognitive load for all of the people involved by being able to incorporate multiple parts of the organization's skill sets into your platform. And we've seen this, working with certain customers, we've seen this called different things, right? We've seen it called inner sourcing. We've seen it called platform democratization. We call it multiplayer mode, just for shorthand. But this is a successful model of being able to really benefit from all the skills that you have in your org without having to, everybody has to know everything about everything. Which leads to the next part of my talk, which is around how to get started with this. So you might already have this in some places, or you might have everybody very siloed. So how might you either get started or improve this practice? Well, platform engineering is considered a socio-technical approach, which basically means it's not just technology, it's also people, people being the hardest part, honestly. But it's worth considering, how do you get the people aligned as well as the technology? And that takes me back to team topologies, actually. So in team topologies, they talk about 3 interaction modes. They talk about collaboration, X as a service, and facilitating. So in order to understand kind of what a multiplayer internal platform could look like, teams should start off by focusing on collaboration. They need to talk to each other. That's the basics. They need to understand what each team is a specialist in. They need to build up empathy, and they need to become aligned. So collaboration is the best interaction mode to start off with. They can understand different requirements. They can understand who needs to consume what, who needs to contribute what. It's the kind of the key starting point. The platform team needs to collaborate with the Streamline teams and also with all these other teams, kind of the specialists on security or on compliance or on whatever like parts of your business. And again, understand how people need to contribute, how people need to consume, how they can produce different parts of the platform. It might help, if you're starting this approach, it might help to set up a short-lived enabling team, which is, again, an approach recommended in team topologies, a separate team whose real focus is to make sure this facilitation this kind of collaboration happens, right? They can facilitate it, they can map it out across your organization. But the platform team should be collaborating with the other teams with the end goal of being able to provide all of these things as a service to the developers, right? That's the team topologies recommended approach. Start with collaboration, but drive towards X as a service. So the end goal being that your app teams can consume whatever they need as a service. So in my example, I've got the app team can consume Postgres with security built in as a service. So that covers a little bit of the socio aspects. What about the technical? So as a platform team, it's your job to consider how easy is it for people to contribute to the platform. Is your platform just a black box where people don't really understand all the different parts? Is it well documented? Do people understand how they can put things into your platform? What's the process for contributing? And is it just a one-off? Is it like once something's in there, it's there forever? Or is there a way for teams to continuously update their parts of the platform? So this is where something like a platform framework can help. What you really need to have is that your platform should be made up of components that can be easily swapped in and out, and that people know how they can contribute their component and update it and take it out. It needs to be kind of composable. And your platform team should end up with these lovely building blocks that they are able to then compose into golden paths or paved roads for your developers, right? So they get a really nice experience. You might even want to add a lovely portal on the front. So maybe Backstage or Port or something that's a really nice user interface for your developer teams. And now the platform is able to benefit from all the subject matter expertise in your company with all these pieces that are useful for your developers. They can self-serve what they need, but the internal building blocks of the platform are kind of owned by different teams, and they can maintain them, they can swap them out, they can update them. End result being that your platform is kind of greater than the sum of its parts, right? Like the whole is greater. So, hopefully, you've enjoyed this short summary of my multiplayer approach. Key things to just take away. Platform engineering, really, the goal of it is to reduce cognitive load for developers. And it shouldn't be a single-player game. It should be a multiplayer game. So consider how you can do that. And also, platform engineering is a socio-technical practice. So you have to think about the people as well as the technology. A quick shout out to Slide Chef for my slide template because I went down a bit of a Minecraft rabbit hole. Thank you also to my kids for teaching me how to play Minecraft, even though I'm really terrible at it. If you would like to learn more about this approach or how we think about it, you can find me on LinkedIn or you can message the team. And with that, I'd like to say thank you.